supercharged charging stations for Tesla cars. And in Japan, the Nissan...
It's a nice little afternoon conversation about Teslas and electric vehicles on D-Star. Well, that was a nice little intro. Wasn't really planned, but that's radio for you, I suppose. So today, guys, I want to talk to you about this box of tricks. This is something pretty special, guys, and yeah, we're really lucky to sort of be able to get hold of one of these and sort of test it before quite a lot of people have actually got them, particularly in the European world anyway. I know that stateside in the States they've managed to sort of get these in supply now, but these are going to be pretty hard to get hold of. So yeah, this was sorted out from Taiwan, so yeah, probably the only one in the UK other than like probably the select places. But basically this is a receiver and it's actually a software defined radio receiver. For those of you that kind of I know there's a few guys that follow this channel that are actually kind of into ham radio. In fact, my channel actually kind of started out, in ham radio, a lot of ham radio videos and amateur radio stuff. So you'll know what this is, but basically for the others, this is basically a receiver that can pick up pretty much anything on the airwaves. So this is a bit like what used to be called a scanner, I suppose, and the sort of thing that you'd use to pick up police transmissions and sort of emergency transmissions, things like that, and also general sort of people talking on the airwaves on amateur radio bands and CB and all sorts of things like that. Now things have moved on massively from kind of when I was first into it, which is basically like early end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s, and it's just changed dramatically, and I've kind of followed it ever since, really. So the reason why this radio is pretty special is because it's actually a software-defined radio, as I've mentioned before, but also it doesn't require a computer to operate. Unlike a lot of the other SDRs on the market, you can buy an SDR dongle, which is effectively like a repurposed TV receiver USB dongle, which would fit into your computer and give you the same kind of functionality. More on that later. But basically, this is a hardware meets software combination, which is something that I'm really interested in because I love hardware and I love something that's actually been designed for a purpose. So what you're seeing here, guys, is pretty state of the art. You've basically got a spectrum screen showing here, which is absolutely lovely. Like, you can configure this screen in kind of many different ways, but basically right here you're seeing around this center frequency of 439.6125 megahertz, which is a local digital repeater. And you see some of these call signs and stuff coming up on the screen as I'm talking. But you can also see 2.5 megahertz below and 2.5 megahertz above this center frequency. So that's like 5 megahertz of complete bandwidth, which you can view at any one time. So it's absolutely fantastic for just highlighting signals or just seeing what's actually coming up in a band. I mean, in the sort of 2 meter amateur band, for example, you can see many signals when you've got decent antenna connected to it. I'm just at the moment just running it off this little whip because those of you who follow the vlogs, you'll know that I've just moved house and I'm just still waiting to put some antennas up. But this receiver is very sensitive and it's picking up, let's see these little lines here, basically just different repeaters coming up. These are probably like PMR ones actually, because I think they're at the edge of the band. I mean, basically this receiver goes up to 3 gigahertz, so it covers all the HF or low frequency bands right the way through to 3 gigahertz, so past Wi-Fi and on to, I don't really know what's actually on 3 gigahertz, but it gives you up to that should you need to kind of monitor up that high. And it's very easy to use. I mean, I pretty much just got this out of the box and just set it up and off you go. I say set it up, but basically just connecting the antenna and the power supply. It doesn't actually come with a power supply, but you can get one of these, which is like just like a normal power adapter. I don't know how noisy these are, but it seems to work okay for the moment. And I can actually, plug in a proper power supply, which I've got, run some of the other stuff on here. So yeah, let's have a little look around the radio, because I know a few people are going to be interested in sort of seeing this. There's been quite a few videos already about this, but I think most of them are covering kind of the low bands. Now I'm interested in the higher bands and sort of the digital end and all this sort of other stuff. So yeah, right now we're tuned into a digital repeater, which is a D-Star one. So now, as luck would have it, no one's actually talking on this frequency right now. But when they do, you'll obviously see, you know, some action on here. We started to pick up a signal, which is on 4396125, and this is just, I think that might have just been a beacon or something like that. But we should see someone pop up on here sooner or later, because this is connected to like an internet-based reflector system. So there's lots of people all around the world just chatting away. As you saw right at the beginning of the video, when there was a couple of guys just talking about Teslas. So it's really quite interesting to listen to. Now this radio will actually decode a number of digital modes, and the highly controversial thing about this radio is it doesn't decode DMR. So DMR, as most of you know, is basically like a business radio protocol, which growing numbers of businesses are actually using. So let's see here, we've got a signal coming in, just briefly there. What you're seeing here is actually like D-Star users which kind of just get their radio and just checking access on the repeaters. So you see like their call signs just popping up from time to time when there's not actually kind of any voice. So I don't know, let's just have a look at another frequency. So what you can do is just basically touch where there's a signal there, and you can just get it to tune directly to that. Now we're set on D-Star at the moment, which is the digital format, so we can flick back to FM and hopefully hear what this frequency actually is. Now it seems like this is probably like some kind of telemetry or something like that. Now you can't see that, all you can see is a very, very fine line on the screen, but if you hit span and then decrease the range, what you can do is you can effectively zoom in on that signal. So you can see here it's like some kind of FSK signal, so you've got, you know, like a modulation going up and down. So if you fine tune it, you can go right down to sort of hertz level, you can fine tune it right into the middle there, and yeah, that's it. So you basically can just examine a signal there like that, and it will go a little bit further. So it's quite useful just for on the fly, just, you know, this is with no other, you know, processing, no computer, nothing. You can just literally go straight on the front of the radio and just analyse a signal very quickly. You can also output this signal if you really wanted to over numerous interfaces. There's like an IF output by USB, which is a little USB port on the side, or there's like an IF output 10.7 megahertz IF output on the back of here, so you could go into another software defined radio and attempt to decode like a signal like this, which is really useful. So let's zoom right back out. You know, effectively you're zooming, so you're seeing a lot more of the band. So there's another signal over there. What you tend to get is a little peak where it's basically showing you the peaks, and it holds the display. See that one? I don't know if you can see it, just kind of you know, fading away, but it's showing you basically where a signal was. So let's hop over to that one there and see what we can do. Go into that sounded like it was actually like a proper transmission, like an analog one or something. So let's just hang around there for a bit and see if anything pops up. Two ways of having this display. You can basically have it like the way I've got it, where as you turn the dial, you'll see everything move, including the display there. So you'll see these kind of lines wiggle around as you're moving it. Or you can actually have it fixed on the center frequency, and then as you tune around, it won't move what's in your range. This particular mode is quite cool because it gives you the frequency readouts either side, so 443 and then I guess 440 or around there for that lower one. So it's quite a nice feature. Now if you hop up into the kind of PMR bands around here, we should see something else. This is nice. It's basically like a keypad entry on the touchscreen, which is kind of nothing really, you know, groundbreaking in this day and age, but it is nevertheless nice. So you can basically centre in. So we see there's a couple of signals appeared on here. I think these may be something to do with the airport, because I'm quite near the airport, or maybe just nothing, just sort of some strange carriers. So if we change the span right up to 2.5 megahertz. So the total bandwidth is 5 megahertz all the way across, middle frequency 0 up 2.5 and then down 2.5 megahertz. That's the maximum you can see. You can actually plug this into a computer and go further if you really want to, but you know, for most people, 2.5 up and 2.5 down is probably enough, because you can see a lot of stuff going on. So here we go, another sort of telemetry one. Let's see if we can find something to listen to.
Is there any more to meet?
No, they're fine now.
So you can see that's just like a normal FM, you know, received signal, which you can do in anything, but it's quite nice to obviously see, quickly see where the signals are and just click on them very quickly. Because if you've got a receiver, obviously, that hasn't got, you know, this function, if it isn't an SDR, then you're going to be scanning. Your scan is just going to basically look like this, not the same frequency, but, you know, no spectrum scope. Now what's nice is you can actually have your spectrum scope on as well whilst you're scanning, which is really, really cool. Because if you, let's just stop that and go back to sort of where there probably is going to be some signals. So you can see, obviously here, let's just change my scan group on the side there. So you can see, basically, once you're scanning, you can actually see all these signals popping up. Now I think I need to turn my squelch up a little bit. So basically, to turn your squelch up to get rid of signals, you can see this little arrow at the top moving up there. Basically, what you do is you basically just press this multi button in, and it gives you different settings like treble, bass, and it's gone away now. So what we're seeing, some POCSAG pager things there. They're very strong signals. So you can start to see there. If we get this bigger and go back, I think we need to get out of the expanded mode. Right, that's it. So you can see these signals here. If we span, make them much bigger. Look at that. See, you can get quite a good image of that signal. What you can also do is set your reference level, which is useful because this background level here is quite sort of blue, dark blue, showing you know your base level, and you can actually, you know, make that. You can make that silly. You can go right at the top so you can adjust this up and down to suit, you know, your noise levels. If you don't want to see the ambient noise on the screen, you can just have the signal there, or you can basically bring out very weak signals on the waterfall display there. So yeah, it's really nice. It'd be nice if you could adjust the other direction, but you can't seem to do that. You can only do that, so that only allows you to kind of increase that reference level there. What's also nice is you actually get a pretty good selection of kind of signal meter options there, which goes from S points to the different dBm there as well. So you can actually show your peak levels as well, 153, 345. So it's hovering around on that level there, which is pretty cool. Most of it is done via this kind of on-screen menu here, this 1 and this 2, for configuring, you know, on the fly stuff. There's a number of options, settings up here. Scan, memories, record. So you can record everything to SD card as well. It's an SD card I've put in there. You can record basically everything that the radio hears. There's quite a few little options for like timer records and what you actually record as well. You've got histories of what you're receiving for the digital signals. So very much like a D-Star radio. I think it might even show you some of the other ones as well. No, I think because the memory isn't that great. So let's show you some digital decoding. So I've got a D-Star handheld here, Kenwood D74 D-Star, and I've set them both radios to 145.475. So if we just key up on this radio here briefly, you'll see the digital signal pop in there. And I could span out a little bit so you can see it a bit clearer. So there we go. That looks nice. Nice strong signal coming in right next to the radio. So you can see it sort of holds this setting. You can configure that. I haven't actually really played around with that actually much, but you can change all the colours, I think, of this. And I know some others have kind of configured it to better colours. I think there's ways to make it stand out a little bit nicer. But anyway, so we're on FM at the moment. We want to go to a digital mode. We want to pick digital mode D-Star, and so we're now in the D-Star mode there. So we should be able to decode the signal. So I'll do a little test transmission. M6JKA testing. Don't think I had the volume turned up on the actual radio there. Let's turn that up. Let's see if we can get M6JKA testing. Let's turn this up a little bit more and see if I can go over here a little bit. M6JKA testing. See, D-Star is actually very quick, it's hardly any delay. M6JKA testing. So you can see there on the screen the message and stuff that I've got configured on my radio, and that basically will just decode D-Star all day long. Now, so onto digital, you've got different digital modes you can actually decode. P25 is not really used in the UK, but DPMR maybe used a little bit, mainly kind of little simplex walkie-talkies, stuff like that. Next, Kenwood or Icom Next Edge. This actually will decode Icom IDAS as well. You've got two types, NXDN narrow and then NXDN very narrow, and then DCR, I haven't really played with that, and obviously D-Star. So the lack of DMR on here is a little bit concerning if you are thinking of buying this just for monitoring all digital modes, because you won't be able to. You won't be able to do DMR. It doesn't bother me because I've got lots of different ways of monitoring DMR, including handhelds and stuff on the laptop and all sorts of things. And I'm pretty bored of just listening to DMR anyway. For me, this radio is actually very useful for being able to just identify signals on the fly on the front panel very quickly. It's very fast to just check a signal in an area, or I just love the hardware aspects of it basically. So I'm going to show you around the back of the radio itself. What you've actually got at the back is a serious amount of connections actually. So you've got 10.7 megahertz out, which you can use to feed another SDR and see 20 megahertz bandwidth apparently. IQ out, that's actually not supported yet, but they're supposed to be Icom is supposed to be releasing a driver for it, which would be really good. External speaker, audio output, remote control. I'm not sure exactly. I think that might be for just some special thing that they're going to bring out soon. USB, mute. You've got a LAN port as well you can actually get this to connect to a time server over the internet, which is pretty neat. And then you've got 3 antenna connectors on here. So you've got AMP 1, AMP 2 and 3. And basically the first one's used from everything from, 0.01 megahertz right the way through to 3 gigahertz. And then you've got the second one here, which is mostly used for my dogs are barking. Hey! And you've got this one here, which is for HF and some of the lower frequencies, and also this one can be. So I think you can configure either those two for the lower frequencies. It says on the screen, you just touch the screen and it cycles through the different antenna connections, but you can't use any other one for the higher frequencies. It has to be that one there. You've also got a remote meter, and this funny little thing that you have to plug in when you use Icom's own power supply. I didn't read the instructions, and I plugged the power supply in. Nothing happened, so I was like, oh no, is it broken? But actually you just need to plug this little pigtail thing in, and then the DC socket will work for the Icom power supply. And obviously you can plug in like a bench power supply to then you'd probably get a bit of a cleaner signal, which might help if you're getting a bit of interference on the signal coming into there, because some of these little power supplies, they're not that clean. But I imagine Icom have done a pretty good job with that. So that's about it for now. As I say, this is pretty new stuff, so we're going to continue to test and really explore what this receiver can do. It's really, really interesting stuff, and it's very compact as well. This is the future of kind of radio receiving, and it's really interesting that Icom have gone to the lengths to sort of develop something like this. I'm really interested in getting this hooked up to a computer as well, so that you can start kind of looking at extending the waterfall display, and also your kind of IQ output. Once Icom bring the drivers out for that will be really, really interesting. But for now, you can actually just use the normal IF output and pump that into another SDR and see. Now on to the other question: is it worth it? It's one of these things. I mean, basically, you know, you can achieve what you can see here, you know, nearly as much with a, you know, 15-pound SDR dongle, USB dongle plugged into a computer. But these little SDR dongles are not really designed for, you know, advanced kind of reception or receiving. So their receivers are basically like glorified or repurposed digital TV receivers. So you've not got the filtering, you've not got the kind of performance that you're going to get with this. The sensitivity on this is going to be way ahead of something like that. So if you're seriously interested in a receiver that can do everything, and you haven't got to worry about frequency drifting or, you know, offset problems, I mean, this is going to be on the nail. If you set it to a frequency, it's going to stay on that frequency, and it's not going to you're not going to have to calibrate it, you know, left to right, centre. I mean, there are tools to make life easier with an RTL dongle, but this is a precision bit of kit, and obviously you're going to pay for that. So it depends what you want. I mean, I like the hardware aspect of it, and I like the way they've kind of implemented the waterfall, and it just makes a very kind of seamless and enjoyable way to kind of find signals and do what you would do on, you know, any other receiver, but just in a way more futuristic and better, you know, better way. There's obviously, you know, kind of room for improvement. I mean, it would be marvellous if they would just basically add some extra protocols, but I don't really think it's going to happen. And the lack of DMR will definitely be something that will just going to put people off of this receiver. But as I say, for someone that wants a receiver, they're not too bothered about decoding DMR. I mean, it will decode pretty much all the other modes, apart from Yaesu Fusion. But yeah, so it's weighing it up really, like all of this stuff, if you think it's worth it. But it'd be interesting to know what you think in the comments. But it is a really nice bit of kit. They've done very well. Anyway, my arm's aching. I'm going to stop waffling, and yeah, we'll carry on. Probably be some more videos about it. It'd be nice to get it hooked up to the big antenna once the shack is kind of finished, and then we'll start to see what it can really do. So hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe, like. If you're interested in all this sort of stuff, radio, electric vehicles, all the stuff that this channel is about, go check the other videos. I'm not going to go into it now, but yeah, I'm sure you'll like it. So I'll catch you in the next video.